The year after we were married, my wife Marlene wanted to spend her fall break from school camping in the Adirondacks. I agreed to go with her, even though I hated camping. When we were dating, she would go out overnight in the woods by herself sometimes, so I was afraid that if I didn't go, she might just go by herself. So we packed up the truck and headed north with our 2 dogs, Shiva and Mac. Mac was an older German Shepherd, and Shiva was a 2-year-old Siberian Husky. We spent the first day hiking about 8 miles into a remote area Marlene had picked out on a map. We set up the tents near a stream and went to sleep. All night the dogs were restless. There's nothing more unnerving than a dog's bark echoing through the woods at night when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Marlene slept through the whole thing, but the next morning I insisted we move, so we hiked another 5 or 6 miles deeper into the woods. The first couple of nights in the new spot, I slept like a baby. During the day, we mostly explored the neighborhood around our tent. Since we were going to be living there for 9 days, we started naming some of the places we found, like Dead Tree Hill or Shiva Rock. On the 3rd afternoon, we found a strange little clearing in the forest about 1.5 miles from our campsite. It was perfectly round and surrounded by hills on all sides. Inside the clearing, there was nothing but grass. No bushes, no trees, no large rocks even. The grass in the center of the circle was charred like there had been a fire, so we named it Salem's Lot. It looked like the kind of place where ancient people might have burned witches or performed rituals. That night, the dogs were restless again. I spent 1.5 hours trying to settle them down, but they were getting more and more wound up. Finally, I had to wake Marlene. She sat up and immediately said, "Don't you hear that?" I could only hear the dogs, at first. But then I began to notice a sound floating around beneath the dogs barking. It sounded like a baby, crying. Marlene started to get dressed. "It could be a mountain lion," I said, but I knew there was no stopping her. She marched out of the tent and started speed walking in the direction of the sound, followed by the dogs. I chased after them. As we hiked through the dark looking for the source of the crying, it would sometimes seem to be right in front of us, but when we got there, we would hear it farther away again. After an hour, we found ourselves on one of the hills above Salem's Lot. "It's in the clearing," Marlene said, and she started bushwhacking her way down the hill. I struggled to keep up with her. Shiva and Mac followed behind us. Near the bottom of the hill, Marlene hesitated. We were in the woods about 20 yards from the clearing. The crying had suddenly stopped. The woods were now completely silent. No bugs, no critter sounds, nothing. In the moonlight, we could see something on the burned grass in the center of the clearing. We crept forward to get a better look, and my heart sank when I saw what it was. It was an old car seat, a baby's car seat, facing away from us. It was rocking back and forth like there was something inside. Marlene walked out into the clearing. I followed behind her. Shiva and Max stayed back at the tree line. As we moved across the grass, it felt like hundreds of eyes were watching us. When Marlene eventually stepped around the car seat and looked inside, I couldn't believe the look on her face. She smiled. I walked up next to her and saw that there was an old plastic doll sitting in the seat. Both the doll and the car seat looked like they had spent years outside in the elements. For me, this discovery was almost more frightening than finding an actual baby. We turned around and walked back towards the dogs, who were sitting at the edge of the clearing waiting for us. About halfway, we heard a voice. It was childlike, but also menacing. It said, "Don't leave me, Mommy." We stopped dead in our tracks. A thick, foul smell rolled in from behind me and almost made me gag. The dogs got to their feet and started growling. They were looking past us at something. I slowly turned around and saw the dark figure of an impossibly huge man standing in the clearing next to the car seat. Marlene screamed, and we started running. Shiva and Mac were now in the clearing, advancing on the man, growling and baring their teeth. We ran past them and up the hill. Then we heard the voice again. It said, "Help me, Mommy, help me." We ran back to the campsite. I wanted to keep going, but Marlene wouldn't leave the dogs. We sat inside the tent until morning. The dogs never returned. As soon as it got light, I packed everything up because I knew we couldn't stay out there another night. I also knew that Marlene wouldn't hike out with me unless we went back to Salem's Lot. So about an hour after dawn, we hiked back. There was nothing there. No blood, no sign of a struggle, no car seat, and the dogs were missing. Marlene called out their names and cried until I made her leave. I still have no idea what happened out there, but I think Shiva and Mac knew. They could probably smell it from the beginning, but they didn't leave us, and they protected us even though we had been reckless and stupid. Tell me what you think.